The evening air carried a hint of autumn coming in sharp. As Jack Thompson pushed open the creaky door of the Red Lion. The local boozer was nearly dead quiet, just how he liked it. After another knackering day. He gave a nod to old Pete behind the bar, who already had his usual pint of bitter lined up. And Jack settled onto his regular stool. He hardly clocked her when she walked in. Sharp suit, posh watch, not a hair out of place. She picked a stool 3 down from him, plumped her phone face down, and ordered a whiskey, neat. 2 strangers sharing nothing but the same bit of bar. And some low jazz murmuring in the background. Then out of nowhere, she turned to him. With this sudden proper intensity. If you had one wish, she asked. Who would you use it on? Jack Thompson had never planned on being a single dad. At 40, his life had settled into a steady routine of graft and looking after his girl. Not much space for out else. 8 years back, he'd been a solid mechanical engineer. Decent career ahead. Lovely wife called Sarah. Dreams of building a proper family. Then little Grace came along. Tiny, perfect, the center of their universe. But 3 years later, Sarah's heart condition. Always managed, they thought. Suddenly went pear-shaped. Doctors talked about unexpected complications. And acute cardiac event. What they really meant was she was gone. And Jack was left with a 3-year-old. Who kept asking when Mummy was coming home. He sold the house to cover the bills. Moved into a modest 2-bed flat. And eventually jacked in the corporate job. The hours didn't work with raising a kid on your own. Instead, he opened Thompson's Repairs. Fixing industrial kit, white goods, whatever came in. He could set his own hours around Grace. It wasn't flashy. But it paid the rent, mostly. His hands, once used for precision drawings, now carried permanent oil stains. No amount of Swarfiga could shift. At home, he was mum and dad to Grace, now 8. He'd learned to do plates from YouTube. Cut sandwiches into perfect triangles. And could quote every character from her favorite stories. They lived simply, but steady. Every clear night, they'd spend 10 minutes on their little balcony staring at the stars. Jack taught Grace to spot the North Star. Told her no matter how lost you feel, there's always fixed points to guide you home. The life he built wasn't what he'd dreamed of. But it was theirs, and he'd fight tooth and nail for it. Dating? Felt impossible. Logistics, emotion, the lot. Sarah's memory wasn't a ghost. More like the foundations of their home. Jack hadn't had a proper natter with another adult. That wasn't about work or Grace's school. In donkey's years. Until tonight. Elena Hargreaves, 35, had what most would call the lot. Founder and CEO of Apex Innovations. Company worth north of £250 million in under 10 years. Magazines called her one of the sharpest women in British tech. Her diary was booked solid 6 months out. Keynotes, board meetings, investor dinners. Daughter of top academics. Raised to believe success was the only currency that mattered. Parents gave her every educational leg up. But kept their distance emotionally. By 16, Oxbridge offer. By 24, first big funding round. By 30, front cover of Business Insider UK. What the glossies never showed. Her empty Docklands penthouse. With a view she barely had time to glance at. The bone-deep tiredness. Her PA knowing her coffee order better than any mate or family. 6 months ago she'd ended things with another tech hotshot. After overhearing him call their relationship a strategic alignment with mutual synergies. She had everything. Except someone who saw her as more than a funding source. A contact, a status symbol. No one who just needed her, plain and simple. The weight of being Elena Hargreaves had got too much. So tonight she'd given her driver the slip. Walked a few streets to a proper local. And asked a total stranger the question. She'd never dared ask anyone in her real life. My girl, Jack said simply. To give her everything I can. Elena's polished mask softened, just a touch. Not for yourself. That's myself, Jack replied. A bit surprised at his own honesty. With this woman he'd only just met. And so it started. A proper chat between two people. Who, on paper, had bugger all in common. Yet as the night wore on. They talked with the sort of straight-up honesty you usually save for old mates. Or strangers on a long train ride. People you can trust because they're not tangled in your actual life. Grace is doing a school project on butterflies, Jack was saying. His face lighting up proper. She's dead set that if she builds the perfect habitat in our flat, they'll overwinter with us. I haven't got the heart to set her straight. Elena found herself smiling. A real one, not the press conference special. Let her find out for herself. Some lessons stick better when you live, M. You sound like you've been there, Jack said. Elena ran her finger round the rim of her glass. I built my first proper computer at 12. It went tits up spectacularly. My dad wouldn't lift a finger. Said failure teaches more than success. He wasn't wrong, mind. But a bit of help wouldn't have gone amiss. Is he still about? Your dad? Technically. Visiting prof in Edinburgh this year. We swap birthday emails. She shrugged like it was the most normal thing. What about Grace's mum? She passed 5 years back. Heart trouble we thought was sorted. Jack's answer came out steady. A fact he'd learned to deliver without cracking. I'm sorry, Elena said, and meant it. They went quiet, but it wasn't awkward. Pete topped up their drinks without asking. You know out about stars? Jack asked after a bit. Theoretically. Funded an observatory at uni last year. Never found time to visit. Elena gave a soft laugh. Sounds daft when I say it out loud. I show Grace the constellations from our balcony. Cheap telescope off eBay. Sometimes I reckon she learns more from that than school. They talked near 3 hours. Childhood memories, favorite books. Jack's battles with Grace's homework getting trickier. Elena's frustration with board members who still thought she was just a pretty face in tech. Neither dropped surnames, job titles, or anything that pinned down their worlds. In that little anonymous pub, they were just two people connecting. Barriers be damned. As midnight crept up, Elena glanced at her watch, reluctant. Should head. Early start tomorrow. When Pete brought the bill, Elena reached for it. Jack started to argue, but she shook her head. Please. Let me. Something in her voice said it wasn't about the money. More like thanks for a rare bit of normal. As she stood, she looked straight at him. You're the only one tonight who made me feel properly seen. Ta for that. Before he could answer, she was gone. Door swinging shut behind her. Jack sat a moment, oddly rattled. But sure it was just a one-off. Two paths crossing for a minute. He left a tip for Pete and headed home. The chat still buzzing in his head. As he paid the sitter and peeked in on sleeping Grace. Next evening, Elena caught herself doing something daft. Her calendar had 3 meetings she'd have to shift. Her assistant was texting worried emojis. Yet instead of crunching numbers in the office, she was in the back of her car. Swapping the tailored suit for jeans and a plain jumper. Ditching the flash jewelry. I'll ring when I need you, Michael, she told the driver. Take the night. The Red Lion looked just the same. Unpretentious, real, nothing like her usual polished world. She pushed the door, glanced at his stool instinctively. Empty. She took her same spot, ordered the same whiskey. She waited, sipping slow. Eyeing the door every time it opened. Minutes stretched to an hour, then 2. Punters came and went. A couple out for their anniversary. Office lot unwinding. A woman her age reading alone. No Jack. Pete refilled her glass, no comment. Though she caught him watching her curious. He doesn't come in every night, Pete said eventually. Wiping the bar. Usually Tuesdays and Fridays after work. Elena felt her cheeks heat. Caught out proper. We just had a decent chat. Thought. She trailed off, not sure how to explain it. Pete nodded like it made perfect sense. Jack's a sound lad. Been coming here since his missus passed. Doesn't chat much to strangers usually. You must have made an impression. Elena's info-gathering instinct kicked in. Jack Thompson runs Thompson's Repairs down on Westfield Road. Fixes out mechanical. Pete offered it up easy. No fuss about regulars' privacy. Good with his hands. Sorted my cellar cooling last summer. When the supplier tried to rinse me. Elena nodded, filing it away. She finished her drink, pulled out a business card and pen. After a second's pause, she scribbled on the back. If you ever fancy more than an old repair shop, give us a bell. No name, just her private mobile. The one only a handful had. Could you pass this on if he comes in? Course, love. Elena left a decent tip and stepped into the night. Glancing back once at the pub's faded sign and warm glow. Something about this plain little place had given her more peace than her penthouse ever did. She couldn't explain the pull to a bloke who knew nought about her world. But for the first time in ages. She wasn't dissecting her feelings for efficiency. She was just feeling them. 6 days later, Jack found the card. In his jacket pocket. Pete must have slipped it in Friday. He stared at it ages, thumb over the embossed print. Elena Hargreaves, Chief Executive, Apex Innovations. He Googled her. Photos of her on stages, shaking hands with big names. Polished, untouchable. Articles called her brilliant, fierce. He stuck the card in his desk drawer. Tried to put it out of his mind. What could he say to someone like that? Their worlds were miles apart. That chat had been a fluke. 2 lonely people stepping out of their lives for a night. Better left alone, he told himself. Thursday morning, Jack got called to a factory in Trafford. Fixing a vital bit of kit. Downtime cost a fortune. He was elbow deep in the machine. When he heard heels on concrete. Plus voices and a confident stride. Outputs up 17% since the new system. Jack froze, then eased out, wiping hands on his rag. There she was, Elena, in a navy suit. Nodding, asking sharp questions about efficiency and conditions. Their eyes met across the factory floor. For a split second her professional face slipped. Real surprise. She said something to her group. Then walked straight over. Jack suddenly felt every grease stain. Every worn bit of his overalls. Jack, she said simply. Like his name meant something she was still figuring. Miss Hargreaves, he replied, formal. Aware of eyes on them from her team and the lads on the line. Elena, she corrected quietly. Then softer, I came back. You weren't there. The bluntness threw him. Why would someone like you want to talk to someone like me? It slipped out before he could stop it. She glanced at her waiting group. Then the workers pretending not to listen. Walk with me. Not quite an order, not quite a request. They moved to a quieter corner. Footsteps echoing. "I don't need out from you," she said. "Do you know how rare that is in my world? I just want someone who doesn't give a toss who I am." "I know who you are now," Jack said, holding up stained fingers. "And I'm dead clear who I am." "Are you?" she challenged. "Because I see a bloke who rebuilt his whole life around what matters most. Someone who chats about stars and butterflies with the same care he gives to engines. That's who I was talking to in the pub." Jack's guard slipped a bit. "And who were you in the pub?" "Someone who could finally breathe after years of holding it in." "Will you meet me there tonight?" "Not by chance this time." The question hung there, loaded. Jack thought of his jobs, Grace's homework. All the reasons to say no. 8 o'clock, he said instead. That evening, Jack got to the Red Lion bang on 8. Neighbor watching Grace. He'd showered, put on his best shirt. Dark blue, no frayed bits. Even trimmed his beard, feeling a bit daft about it. Elena was already there, on her stool. Jeans, simple jumper, hair in a ponytail. No makeup, no power suit. She looked younger, softer. When she saw him, her smile was different. Genuine, a touch nervous. "You came." "So did you," he said, noticing her phone tucked away proper. Pete came over, smirking. "Usual for both." They nodded together. Then shared a surprised look. "Usual, after one night." "Proper introductions, then," Jack said. Jack Thompson. Owner of Thompson's Repairs. Dad to an 8-year-old mad on butterflies called Grace Elena Hargreaves. CEO of Apex Innovations. Collector of fancy titles and empty awards. She offered her hand, mock serious. He took it, rough palm to smooth. "I wouldn't call a $250 million company empty." "Depends what you count as success," she said. "Tell me about Grace's butterflies." And just like that, they slipped back into easy chat. Like no time had passed. Only now they knew who the other really was outside these walls. Yet it didn't push them apart. It added something deeper. 3 weeks on, Elena's car pulled up outside Thompson's Repairs. Just after shut. She'd texted, "Fancy showing me where you work?" No agenda, just nosy. He'd replied short, "Open till 6. The shop was as she'd pictured. Organized chaos of tools and parts. Smell of oil and metal. Years of hard graft in every corner. Jack looked up from a stripped motor as the bell rang. "Sorry about the mess," he said, "not sorry at all." Elena shook her head, eyes bright with interest. "It's brilliant. Reminds me of my first uni workshop." Jack raised an eyebrow. "You had a workshop? Where'd you think tech comes from? Clean labs and laptops?" She picked up a spanner, hefted it easy. "I built prototypes with these hands before I built a company." She wandered round, asking clever questions. Spotting tools and bits that surprised him. When she suggested a smarter way to sort his stock, he listened instead of getting stroppy. "You're full of surprises, Elena Hargreaves." "If you are too," she said. Smudge of grease on her cheek from the vintage bike he was doing up. Not many see past the CEO to the engineer underneath. Not many see past the repair bloke either. He stopped, unsure. "To the dad, the stargazer, the man who fixes more than machines," she finished. Eyes locked on his. "I see you, Jack." Those simple words landed heavier than any grand speech. Standing there among his tools, they recognized something real in each other. The ability to look past the surface. After locking up, Jack surprised himself. "Fancy coming round for tea?" "Grace has been on at me about the lady who knows stars. Since I mentioned our chats." The invite hung there. A big step. Elena paused only a second. I'd love that. Jack's flat was small but cozy. Older block, mix of practical stuff and Grace's drawings on the walls. Books that showed Jack read more than people guessed. Grace flung the door open before he could. Bouncing excited. Small for 8, Jack's brown eyes. Wild curls from her mum in the photos. Are you Daddy's friend who knows about stars? I know a bit, Elena said, crouching down despite the trousers. But I hear you're the proper expert. Grace beamed. I'll show you my constellation chart and my butterflies. They're in chrysalises, changing even if we can't see it. Bit like people sometimes, Elena said. Glancing up at Jack with a knowing look. 2 months later, a business mag ran a piece. Apex innovations soaring higher. Mostly about green tech. But one photo stole the show. Elena leaving a modest flat in West Manchester. Smiling real. Caption. Hargreaves spotted outside usual circles, whispers about private life. By tea time, gossip sites had pinned the address to Jack Thompson. Repair shop owner, single dad. By night, headlines screamed. Tech boss dates working lad. Snaps of them at a local cafe with Grace. Elena's phone went mental next day. PR scrambling, board emails worried about image. Social media split, supportive to snarky. At a press call on quarterly results. A reporter went straight in. Miss Hargreaves, comment on your relationship with Jack Thompson. Impact on investor confidence. Room went quiet. Her PR man stepped up. But Elena waved him off. My personal life is just that, personal. But I'll say this, Apex was built on the idea. That the best ideas come from unexpected places. I live that belief every day. Next question. It satisfied the city pages. But the gossip rolled on. That night at Jack's, he was quiet. Saw the news, he said after Grace was in bed. Your board won't be chuffed. They'll cope, she said, trying light. Not the first time a CEO's life gets picked over. But usually it's another suit, or posh family. He gestured round the flat. Not a repair bloke. Elena stood, a bit sharp. Is that what's eating you? That you think you're beneath me? Aren't I? In their eyes, the world's eyes. You've grafted your whole life for Summit Extraordinary. I fix things and scrape by for school kit. Elena looked frustrated. Jack, do you really think I'd risk everything? For a charity case or to look down to earth? Give me some credit. Then what am I to you? I don't fit your world. Her face softened. Maybe I don't want to fit in my world anymore. She sat, took his hand. The board, the press, the chat. They don't know me. Not really. They know Elena Hargreaves, CEO. You know just Elena. And Grace knows someone who explains stars. And checks on chrysalises. Those versions feel truer than the one I've polished for years. 3 months in, Apex hit a crisis. Elena went full work mode. Canceling plans with Jack and Grace. Jack sent a sandwich to her office one rough day. Note attached, remember to breathe. We're here when you're ready. She cried in private. Torn between the job and this new thing. She had to learn to balance both. When Grace got poorly and needed fetching from school, Jack was stuck on a job miles out. He rang Elena in a panic. She walked out of a big meeting, no hesitation. She looked after Grace with surprising ease. Stories, tea, the lot. When Jack got back, they were asleep on the sofa, book open. He watched them a long minute. Something settling deep in his chest. No CEO gloss, just a woman who dropped everything for his lass. 6 months in, Apex's big annual due. Industry bigwigs, investors, the works. Elena invited Jack as her plus one. No hiding it. He overheard some young suits sniggering. Charity case, PR outreach. Elena marched over, shut them down proper. Jack's forgotten more real engineering than most of you lot ever learned. His ideas have already saved us millions in production. But more than that. He's the most genuine person here. 9 months after that first night, Elena asked Jack to advise on a new project. Foundations, bringing proper tech skills to kids in underfunded areas. For the first time, their worlds started to meet, without one swallowing the other. 1 year on, Jack, Elena and Grace went back to the Red Lion for tea. Waiting for Pud, Grace got serious, studying Elena close. I was thinking about Mum today, she said. I still remember her from photos and your stories. That's important. Very, Jack said, voice rough. But I was thinking, Grace went on, eyes on Elena. If I could pick someone else for our family, I'd pick you. Elena's composure cracked. Eyes filled. Is that okay to say? Grace asked, unsure. Don't want to make anyone sad. Elena reached over, took her hand. That's more than okay. It's the loveliest thing anyone's ever said to me. Jack watched them. His daughter and the woman who'd become everything to them. A completeness he thought he'd lost forever after Sarah. You made us visible again, he said quietly to Elena, echoing her words from that first night. Later, after Grace was out, they stood on the balcony under the stars. City glow below, but sky clear enough above. Remember your question that first night, he asked. One wish, who would you use it on? Elena recited it back. I was trying to work out what sort of man you were. And what did it tell you? That you were worth knowing. She turned to him. I never asked what you'd wish for now. Jack looked up at the stars, thoughtful. Nothing, he said finally. For the first time in years, I've got now to wish for. Just grateful. Elena smiled, she got it completely. They'd both spent years chasing what was missing. For Jack, security, comfort. For Elena, real connection. Now they'd found something better. Not a fairy tale, but a proper beginning. Built on healing each other. And the quiet miracle of being truly seen.